Hey guys, so I got a chance to play and stream the Anthem VIP demo the other day, and there's a lot to talk about. I'd like to give you my honest opinion on this upcoming title from a perspective of a streamer and a relatively competitive player. Anthem is a, listen to this, third-person shooter online multiplayer action role-playing video game, which is going to launch on February the 22nd. Player vs player content is not available, but you can play co-op with up to 3 other players. You use javelins, which are robot-like suits to fly around and shoot enemies. A lot of features in the game are similar to games like Destiny and Warframe, and the target audience is probably the one that is playing those games. You complete missions, collect material and gear, upgrade gear, increase difficulty of missions, rinse and repeat. Let's go over some of the more interesting topics. The graphics are just stunning, nothing I've ever seen before. The spell effects, the bullet impacts, all the details, everything. If I were to rate this, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. On ultra settings, you should be able to maintain at least stable 60 FPS with a 1080 Ti and 8700K, usually staying close to 100 FPS. We could only access a few big fights in the demo, but it's expected that the biggest fights might run quite a bit worse. Higher settings of post-processing add some motion blur, but in my opinion it still looks and feels good with that mixed in. All these great graphics might look cool at the start, but after only a few hours of gameplay, it just became a bit too much to look at for longer periods of time. But that's only a minor thing compared to some other stuff we'll go over later in the video. So there's this weird intermission part where you're supposed to walk around this Star Wars / Assassin's Creed place and do some questing and talking. The problem is you're limited to slow walking around the place, and there's quite a bit of walking to do. Not just that, but every time you log into the game or finish a mission, you have to walk all the way from the spawn point to the other side in order to access the main gameplay menu. Hopefully on launch, EA adds a way to skip or speed up this painstaking process. The classes or javelins are as follows: Ranger, Colossus, Storm, and Interceptor. Each javelin has different abilities, move speed, health, etc. Each has a different role and requires a different approach to play. It's obvious that this game requires different skills and that the skill ceiling is very high, especially if you look at full 4-man groups. It's also a relatively easy game to get into when it comes to mechanics. But what do I mean with relatively easy? We have to talk about the menus and the default settings. First of all, it's apparent that this game was made with the console's first approach, meaning that the PC side suffers from clunky and weird menus that are extremely hard to navigate. Not only that, but the default settings come with mouse acceleration turned on for aiming, and it took me a while to find and disable the obscured setting. These little details speak volumes when it comes to the things that weren't done with the right ideas in mind. The flight and especially the underwater controls feel really abysmal, which might be another negative of this being more console focused. I still have an issue with the money grabbing approach of Origin Access Premier. If you have already pre-ordered the game, you should be able to play it at day one. It just creates unnecessary elitist environment in the community and kind of forces people into spending more money. All in all, I feel like the fans of games like Destiny will be satisfied. The game runs good enough, it looks quite polished, and the occasional bugs will potentially get fixed at launch. The main issue for me is the longevity of this game. Maybe we'll see something that will change that fact once the game launches, but I'd say that holding left click, occasionally shooting some spells and killing bosses with an ever increasing health pool, which I think the hardest difficulty goes up to 3100%, gets quite boring after a few weeks. The story mode is also pretty dull, and there isn't much to get immersed into. I myself would most likely skip this title entirely. Hope you liked this video, and I'll see you in the next one.